In this video, we are going to see what a polyfill is. So basically, a polyfill is a custom code we use or we create to a specific environment where that feature is not available. Nowadays, polyfills are not that common, but it is going to help us understand better how JavaScript works behind scenes. So I have this file here, and I'm going to create a variable called array, and I'm going to assign the value of another array with the numbers 1, 2, 3. If I try to access methods in the array, we can see, for example, the map method, filter method, reduce method, and many more. And what we are going to do is to try to create, just for now, the map method. And the map method is as follows. We type the word map, we create or we call the function here using parentheses. Then we are going to pass a parameter, and in this case the first parameter for a map method is going to be a callback function or a function. And in here what I'm going to do is to just return the item, and I'm going to save this in another const variable, and I'm going to print this to the console. So let's see what the result is. And the result is another array transform with the numbers, in this case 1, 2, 3, because I didn't do anything here, but we can transform the array, for example, taking each item and multiplying that by 2. So if I run this again, I'm going to have the same array and each item is going to be multiplied by 2. So we are going to create this same functionality with a polyfill. So let me comment this out. So what we need to know is that that map method is coming from array prototype. That's the main or the parent object for arrays in JavaScript. So if I type array.prototype and I type a dot, we can see the same methods we were talking about before and some other properties of that object. So for example, the map method. But in this case, we are going to create our own method. And this is going to be, or I'm going to call this my map. And I'm going to assign a function to this. Actually, I could assign the value 1. So if I log this to the console, and let me copy this here, and let me run the script, we can see that this specific property, my map, is storing just the value 1. We can see here on the console. But we don't want to do that. What we want to do is to create the same functionality of the map method. So we'll need to create a function, and this function is going to receive one parameter, and the parameter, or the first parameter it is going to receive, is a function. So we are going to call this function a callback, could be any name. And now I'm going to open the body of my function, and in here what we need to do is to return the transformed array. So to do that, what I'm going to do is to create a variable let. I'm going to call this result, and I'm going to create I'm going to assign an empty array as a value. Then what I'm going to do is to create a for loop or a loop. I'm going to use for in this case, and because I want to iterate over my array. Right now I'm just creating this custom polyfill, but what we want at the end is to create, for example, I'm going to create another array here. I'm going to start in the number 9, 8, and 7. So when I type the dot and I call my map function, I want to iterate through these numbers. I forgot this, comma. So I'm going to create the for loop. I'm going to declare a variable. I'm going to call this index, and we are going to initialize that with the number 0. Now I'm going to create my condition, and I need to iterate over the array. And right now I'm going to use the keyword this, and this is referring to the array itself. Right, this section here would be the same as this. So this is referring basically to my array. And because this is an array, I have the property length. So I can iterate over all the elements. And at the end, I'm going to increment my index by 1. So now what I'm going to do inside the for loop is to create a variable that is going to store each element. So I can call this element. And again, I'm going to use this property, but instead of the accessing the length property, I'm going to access the element with the index and the bracket notation to access each one of these elements. And I'm going to store that into the variable element. Next, I'm going to transform the element. So I'm going to create another variable. Let's call this element transformed. And I'm going to take my element, actually I have the element here, my element, and I'm going to do something. And in here, what I can do is to just call the callback function. And the callback function, if we check here, let me just change this a little. Usually what we do is to create an arrow function, and we accept one parameter here. So this parameter is that one that we are going to receive here in the function once we create the callback function. So that parameter is going to be my element, each of these elements. So what's happening here is that when I call my map custom function or polyfill, usually we create an arrow function like this. So this is going to be my callback function, the one that is going to be passed here. And that function is going to receive a parameter. I'm going to call this item for now. So it's similar to this. Let me remove this here. And it is like if I were doing this. Like I'm calling the function here and I'm doing something with the function. Right now I'm going to say that like item return item times 2, for example. So everything in here is going to be the same as this, and this item is going to be this element, and this element is going to be this item in the array. And finally, what we need to do is to fill this out, this array. So we could use the method push. And what do we need to push? Well, the element transform. And that would be at the end, we need to return the result, because if not, it is going to return nothing undefined. It is going to give us undefined. So if I save this and I call my method, which should, let me clear the console. So here I'm getting this error, but because I need to save this into a variable. Let's call this final result. I'm not printing anything in the console. So let's console log this, final result. And let's run this again. So it's working. 9 times 2, 18, and the same for the other values is multiplying by 2. And we can do whatever we want here. For example, subtracting number 1, and it is working. There are many ways we could make or create the logic here, but so this is basically what a polyfill is, and I hope you found this useful, and see you on the next one.